può pregare. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It was the sprint that became a marathon. You're still here. You're still going strong. Great to see you all for the final set of sessions. I hope you're having a good time and enjoying yourselves, because I think some of the speakers have been absolutely brilliant today, and we've got no let up in terms of the quality of insight that I think we're going to be able to share with you over this next little small period. Now, just a quick show of hands. Who actually is an alumni of the programme here today? Congratulations. I think you've just earned yourself a big round of applause. Let's start with that. Now, as they say, there's no such thing as a free clap. So I'm delighted you've had one, but at the end of the session, we've got Lord Billamoria, who is the patron of the Small Business Charter, has been a champion of the Help to Grow programme. He's the founder of Cobra Beer. He's going to be giving the closing keynote. And what we'd like to do is, because this is the first time we've brought together the alumni group and people that have received the Help to Grow programme from everywhere in the UK, we'd like to bring everybody who is I think it's technically an alumnus of the programme, onto the stage to have a photograph with Lord Billamoria right at the end. So he doesn't know this yet. He's in a cab on his way over, but I'm going to be giving him a briefing about this when he arrives. So if you have completed the Help to Grow programme, do come on stage at the end. I'll just say, can you come on the stage? So you'll know that. Right. Let's move on. Any fans of Jerry Maguire in the room? Who's watched it? 1, 2. What was the famous catchphrase? Show me the money. Now, show me the money could well have been the caption for the next session, because we're going to have the finance and investment expert panel. And of course, I know as business leaders, you want to see the money. You want to know not only how you earn it, but actually how you get it invested. And actually how you realise your potential for that. Now, in introducing our panel, they are an absolutely powerhouse of ideas, because we've just been talking about some of this. Irene Graham, OBE, is the CEO of the Scale Up Institute, which works with government and overseas agencies on the policies needed for scaling businesses. Ian Sutherland is the CFO and head of Net Zero at Tide, which is the fintech company providing mobile-first banking services for small and medium-sized businesses. And Alex Toft is the head of Minerva Business Angels, which is the second most active angel group in the UK, supporting innovation, access to finance, and investment readiness. I'm going to be having a conversation with them. We might get to a few questions as well if people want to ask those. But in the meantime, can you give them a big round of applause? Why don't I go here and I'll... Yes, there we go. Great. Okay, nice to see everybody. Irene, it hasn't sort of escaped me that today is Thanksgiving in America. Should we be giving thanks for the autumn statement yesterday?
Yeah, I do. I think we should be. I think there's a lot of messaging in that which gives and should give positive signals to those businesses in this room seeking growth. There's a lot of different measures that are seeking to unlock capital to businesses that are growing and give consistency to the capital that already exists. So that's EIS, SEIS, for those familiar with sort of the tax incentives that help angel investors and VCs and others invest, whether it's unlocking institutional capital, so pension fund money into the growth economy, whether it's extending opportunities at the British Business Bank, which is our sort of government development agency for working with the private sector, unlocking capital. There's a lot to be unpacked within that. And there's also the talent side. So Help to Grow was extended within the autumn statement.
We noticed.
So was the apprenticeship opportunity. So there's quite a lot there.
So it tidies it up.
It gives you a message of, in our view, talking to our scale-up CEOs, they want a level of consistency and knowledge of certainty. Right. And I think there are two things that this does. One is try and give that runway of consistency, and the other is tackling a long-held problem for the UK, which is unlocking that growth capital into the growth economy.
Yeah, I want to come back to the growth capital, but let's just look at the overall. Alex, let's come to you. We spoke about the budget, or the statement rather, the autumn statement, just while we were being mic'd up. you've got a slightly different take on it. What's your feeling?
Well, I think really in the early startup market, there's not really much difference in many respects. I think people are, like Irene was saying, are just looking for certainty. There's still some, as we discussed, some complexity about the R&D tax credits, and I think the biggest shout out really is that we need injection of extra capital into the marketplace, particularly for the early startup, because very much so we're going through a bit of a fallow period. Now, as we discussed, is the pension funds will get more involved. How will that money cascade its way down? Because that has been one of the issues this year, is that we've seen sovereign wealth fund and pension funds roll back from the private market. So again, it's important that we find a way to re-stimulate the economy in terms of available capital, because in particular in the UK system, it's an awfully fragmented way of raising money. In fact, it is horrible in terms that we have this tension between raising money, not giving away a company, and then we spend all our lives trying to raise money, where in reality it would be easier if we could get a nice big injection of capital, risk capital, and grow from there.
Ian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with Irene. I think anything you can do to simplify and tidy up, the schemes that are out there is very helpful. There is too much complexity in some of the areas in tax and others. I mean, R&D being one that, I've spent many years filling out R&D tax returns, and I can tell you that they're not straightforward. So anything we could do to simplify that is great. I'll be keeping a close eye on whether the actual changes come through in terms of helping certain small businesses that are actually not so heavily in the R&D space, but maybe are very crucial to the economy. If you're not necessarily doing more than 30% of your expenditure in R&D spend, then you might not be well impacted here. But let's see how that progresses, because it'll be interesting to watch.
I mean, Alex, just on I mean, Irene mentioned growth capital as one of the big themes of the budget, of the statement. Excuse me, keep calling it the budget. That's next spring. But in terms of what that means, it's about this liberalising of pension funds, this creation of a mini sovereign wealth fund to invest in private businesses, or however you might describe it. What might it mean for businesses in this room? I mean, is it worth sitting up and taking notice of it, or is this the sort of stuff that, this is going to be years in the making and it's a long way away?
It depends where you are in the development cycle. So as soon as we hear of an injection of cash through any fund, one of the key criteria will be, what's your turnover? Because that is a limiter. Turnover is a way of validating a business, is a way that saying your idea is wanted by people, which is kind of okay. And any fund that we've seen, including the British Business Bank funds, the Midland Engine Investment Fund, etc., there's always been that limiter in terms of the capital that you've got. So for the majority of early startups, it probably means very little. And they'll depend on, for example, SEIS, which is the tax advantage 250,000. So, but we have another problem, is in terms of the scale up, and one that we're particularly seeing now, where they're making that transition from basically venture capital to private equity, for example, but they cannot fund their orders. So that's where it may have a really important impact, because we have two people within our portfolio. One of them is supplying cargo bikes, and the thing is they need that working capital, but because their turnover isn't EBITDA or $1 million, private equity goes, no thank you, and venture capital, they're too big. So there are two, shall we say, imperfections in the market. That one, which the funds would probably be very helpful for, but that still does not address the very early proof of concept capital requirement for companies.
So let's go into that scale-up group, 34,000 businesses that you've identified are in. I mean, if you are in the kind of business of scaling up your business, how good a news is this, do you think?
So I think, this growth capital gap and unlocking of pension funds, and also the development of regional angel programs, regional funds, is really crucial, because this is about getting the capital into the localities where our businesses are, and making sure that we've got that right continuum of capital. So you can't look at anything in isolation. So one of the things that this government has done, and building on others, is you've got the start-up loans, you've got regional angel programs to try and foster that regional activity around the country. You've got more regional funds coming, and they've just announced some this week, Wales, South West, etc., which are all designed to try and stimulate that market. And then this growth capital and unlocking the pension funds will address the £15 billion in the growth capital gap, which is that follow-on funding at scale. Now, the key thing is connecting that capital to the businesses in this room. So the other bit that was important in the autumn statement has been that commitment to investment zones. How do you build locally the investment zones to connect the capital to actually the local businesses? Because we know for the businesses around here, the more they feel they're away from London and the South East, the more they think that capital's disconnected. Even with Alex and all the good work he's doing on the ground and some of the Business Growth Fund and others regionally. So the investment zone is also an important step about how do we make those work to connect the capital into businesses in this room.
How many people have taken investment capital into their businesses? Quick show of hands. Not very many. How many are interested in taking it into their business? More. Okay. And how many people would be worried about taking it into their business? Okay. All right. So I think let's start, Ian, in unpacking that. I mean, you're obviously at Tide providing a range of business banking and financial services. In terms of the financing and funding available at the different stages of, I suppose, start to scale, what should people know? How would you talk about your own work in terms of the sort of things that you're offering, and what sort of businesses are taking them on?
So Tide is really here to support the SMEs, that are small to medium-sized businesses. We typically work with businesses that have 10 or less employees. They tend to be businesses that don't have a finance function, so they owner-managed businesses that need some support with their financial technology. We offer a range of services that actually provides different ways to access capital. Most recently, we acquired a business called Funding Options that has the largest panel of lenders in the UK. We've done over 750 million of lending to over 15,000 businesses now. So if you're interested in that, please do look it up. There's a knowledge centre on our website. But there you can find out about all the different ranges of loan finance that are available to you, which is a myriad of options, whether that's business loans or working capital finance, credit cards, all of the different grant schemes that are available to you, as well as things like, on the equity side. We see a lot of businesses now really going after, equity instead of debt, realizing that there's less ties to having an equity investor come in. But what I would really like to everyone to take away from this conversation is that equity investment is really key. I've been doing venture capital-backed businesses for about 15 years now. So I've spoken to hundreds of investors over the years, and it's really hard to find the right fit. And that's because the investors that you work with don't necessarily have the same timelines as you have in your business in terms of what they're looking for in terms of a return on their investment. So it's really important to do your diligence when you go to that at the beginning.
Is there, just as a quick supplementary, for those thinking about it, what is the trigger to seek external funding? Because it does signify a different stage in your journey, doesn't it? If you've self-funded your business thus far, you suddenly are welcoming strangers into your fold. What's a good reason for doing it?
I think all businesses should think about where they are at in their life journey. Certainly, I've always found that the trigger point for seeking any investment is when you know the economics of your business are actually working fundamentally. Because that's ultimately any financial investment is backed by underlying business fundamentals, which is usually about unit economic profitability or some sort of return on investment on what you're doing, what you're selling, what you're making. So if you've got that tipping point into a business model that's actually working, then you should always be thinking about how you can accelerate your growth more, whether that's with debt or equity. Both of those things can come with different ways of thinking about it, because ultimately, a debt finance should always be thought about as a way to fund future cash flows. If you've got cash flows that are coming in, you're profitable, then you're more likely to be able to take on a debt investment. Whereas equity investors don't necessarily need to see that, but they probably do want to see some underlying unit economic profitability so that they can believe in the outcomes further down the line as you scale your business.
Great. Alex, tell us about business angels in this mix in terms of what's the pitch for them? Why are they something to consider?
Well, I just wanted to pick up on something. So we talk about equity. One of the pieces of equity we don't talk about is experience equity. What does somebody bring to your business that's done it already, done it before, has the contacts, has the black books? So if we talk about angel investor, what is an angel? There's a lot of misconceptions out there. Basically, they're an individual, hopefully, who's had a successful career, willing to give something back. You don't do it to make money. You do it really to give back, because I can tell you, investing in companies that are early startups, something I do myself, you're not going to make any money at it. And even if you think you are, it's very difficult, because some of the best companies, the board will fall out with.
Is that true? I mean, I'm sorry to say. I get it. I mean, Mother Teresa as an investor. I mean, I'm finding. Is there there's zero expectation you're going to make any money?
I think you can either do spread and pray, where you try to invest in many in the hope that it will do. You only need 1, 2, or 3. But I think from my personal perspective, and that's of our investors, and we have over 100, is that the main reason you're doing it is to gauge and get help. I mean, obviously you do want to make money. Obviously you do tax incentives. But you're not really going to get involved in an early startup or early scale-up with a preconception that you're going to make a load of money. Okay? And the reason is because you can't tell when a business is going to be good or
Right.
not.
So on that base, sorry, I'm just interested, because I get you could join the Peace Corps, or you could go and do. I mean, you have got different reasons for doing this, right? I mean, so if the overriding ambition is not the money, presumably there is a formula about what gets the right fit between an angel investor and a potential business that they're going to work with. So what's the formula?
The formula is that it's a sector they know, it's a sector they understand. They can be bored, so you not to forget that. So it's their own entertainment.
Right.
It's an ego. I mean, some have very lovely big egos, and they feel that they know the numbers of the lottery ticket, and you happen to be those numbers. Yes, they would like money. They don't like losing money, but they accept the risk. And basically, this is a capital that they can afford to lose in most instances. I mean, we frequently hear from VCs, oh, these would be a great angel opportunity. Go ahead and de-risk them for us. So, I mean, that's what most people enter into them. Yes, there are some professional investors, I accept that, and they tend to be further up the chain where you have securer possibilities. The company's got higher turnover. But if you just focus on those early startups, spin-outs from universities, fantastic, invariably bonkers, and they require a lot of help and a lot of support and a lot of commitment. And it's, you do it, I genuinely, the majority do it because they want to help and they want to give back.
And it is a slightly impossible question to answer, but for people that are sat there going, oh, I quite fancy the idea of the experience and the investment. I mean, what sort of investment levels do you see in business angels? I mean, where does it settle in terms of the numbers?
That can be, well, first of all, you have rules and regulations from the FCA. So if we take a minimum level of investment is £10,000, the companies do set the level of investment, but that £10,000 from one individual can unlock an amazing experience, an amazing contacts. And then you've got people who will sign £250,000, £500,000 checks. However, getting a bad angel is as equal to getting a bad VC. So it's like anything else. You have to be selective. You have to make sure you're compatible. You have to make sure you can work together and you're a supportive crowd. The companies that we see are the most successful are the ones who get the right team around them. And I was told it very long time ago, Jim Ratcliffe, who I used to work for, it's a grey beard. Bringing that grey beard in that can give you that experience and help you develop does work. I never thought I'd hear myself saying that, but it can be an important attribute. And why not? Why not use that experience? And it's that I mean, I think most people do it because they've had such a tough life getting to where they are, getting to successful. Why do I want to waste that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's a great pitch, I suppose, for business angels, Irene. I mean, but I suppose it comes in to an area. You know, this isn't the first conference I've sort of had a session like this where entrepreneurs in the audience just sit down and go, we struggle to demystify investment. We struggle to actually even understand how it might work for us. I mean, how far up the chain does that go in terms of the need to demystify yeah, I suppose the process, the opportunities, but also the obligations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a journey that the finance industry with entrepreneurs has been on for the last decade more. I mean, I've been involved in this for about 15 years now, and that recognition, we've shifted in recognising that debt isn't the answer to everything. The bottom line with debt is you have to have a cash flow to play it back. Some of the businesses in this room may be in life sciences, where you actually need investment coming in to help you build the product before it becomes commercial. So equity needs to come in early. I don't know how many have got friends and family in the room investing in the business. That's already some angel investment. What Alex is talking about is more that professional network of angels coming behind you. I slightly differ. I do think angels are looking for a return of investment. What they will recognise is that they are patient with their capital, and they will be on the journey with the business, and they might create a portfolio of about 10 investments they're doing, of which they're hoping one or two will absolutely hit the. But for the teams in the people in the room here, knowing who your local angel networks are and trying to tap into those, knowing who your local investors are and trying to tap into those, there are different mechanisms. Help to Grow can support that. And many of your universities and business schools will be aligned to those angel and venture networks as well. You've got the British Business Bank that does a sort of display of them. And how we get the right mentoring and support to businesses in this vein. But it's a journey of understanding the right capital at the right time. And to all of you in the room, and it's picking up Alex and Ian's point, don't necessarily go for the first person that offers you money, because you've got to make sure the person offering fits what you want from the company side. What are they going to bring with that investment?
Right.
Connections to markets, connections to people, support you maybe in a discipline you don't currently have in the company that you want to bring into the company. So as a business owner, that's what you should be looking at when you're assigning a view of, is this the right investor for me or not?
Right. I mean, Ian, I'd have thought there might be quite a lot of people that sat in the audience thinking it all sounds a bit hit and miss, as in you could get this badly wrong and bring the grey beard into the business. But what if the grey...
Or woman.
All person. I suppose, but whatever.
Women-led angel networks as well. I just have to add that. And social impact
angelic things. But it could go wrong, right? You know, it can...
Yeah.
And I suppose that does bring into this issue about taking on investment and your attitude towards risk, which was something we spoke about this morning quite a bit. You know, that kind of, I suppose, that risk reward. In terms of actually the advice you'd give to sort of business leaders sat in the audience, in terms of actually why is it worth the risk, and actually how do you mitigate the risk?
Yeah.
What's the advice you'd provide?
I mean, I think everyone needs to sort of sit down at the beginning of that journey and decide where do you want to take this business, you know, in the short and medium long term. Do you want to see an exit? Do you want to, you know, grow it to be, you know, a lifestyle business? There are all sorts of different journeys people can go on with their small business. And when you've figured that out, the best thing I can recommend is just finding other businesses in your space, specifically in your subsectors, that you can kind of talk to and maybe network with, and find out how they've, you know, ones that are 2 or 3 years ahead of you on that journey, and really talk to those founders and learn about how they've got there. I think that's a really good starting point. There's lots of good ways to reach out to networks, including through Help to Grow. And then ultimately the decision about whether or not to take on investment, I'll say it again, I've worked in a tech scale-up, and whenever we do a funding round, I'm speaking to over 100 investors each time. And that's not because we don't, you know, have lots of offers, it's because we're really trying to find the right fit. And that fit is not necessarily... so many times I've been through this journey and thought immediately, oh, this is the right fund to go with. But then you find something further down the line, whether that's in legal negotiations or it's in, you know, finding out from doing reference checks later on that investors behave badly or whatever like that. So there's really this element of networking up front, spending lots of time with people. It doesn't happen overnight, these things. So if you're thinking about raising money in 2 or 3 years, it's not actually a bad time to start already.
There's a good
planting the seeds about my business.
There's a good army saying about, you know, time spent on reconnaissance is rarely wasted.
Yeah.
Sounds, you know, but do you think, in your experience, apart from the funding and the finance, do you get a better type of business as a result? Is it tighter when there are external parties that are poring over your balance sheet, poring over your performance? I mean, I mean, there are a lot, because there are schools of thought on this, aren't there, in terms of actually the kind of pros and cons of taking on external investment?
Absolutely. In my experience, we've gone through a journey of having seed stage investors, Series A investors, Series B, Series C. And the further you go up that scale, the more you're likely to see an investor who does require more diligence and more rigor around maybe your financial accounting and your reporting, these sorts of things. And that usually is quite good for a business as long as it isn't at the wrong stage for your business. So if you find the right investor, they're usually asking for the right information and providing the right support for your stage of business. So I think that balance is right, because you don't want investors to come in and be really hands-on. If you're an early stage business, seed business, and someone's saying, I would like to come in and have a board seat, that's probably a red signal, because you probably don't need to have a board when you're at that level. But over time, our business has got bigger and bigger, so we've expanded our board to include non-executive directors and that sort of thing. And that's come with the experience of bringing in more senior level management teams and a chairman and all the rest of it. So yeah, definitely that journey is important. And if you've got someone coming in too soon and trying to encumber you with a lot of structure and governance when you don't need it, that could be tricky.
I mean, Alex, one of the things I often, talk to exited entrepreneurs about is that they'll often say we gave away too much too early, and that actually, if we'd known now what we knew, if we knew now what we knew then, it would have been a very, or the other way around, it would have been a very different approach in terms of that trade-off. Because obviously your angels are looking for equity, they're looking for a good deal. What's the advice you'd give to the small business leader about getting it right? And what are the, once you suddenly say, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money, because that might not seem a lot of money a few years later. What's the formula? I
think the tension is the dash for cash. If you need cash, if you need an injection. I'm chairman of a spin out now, and that's one of the problems that we've got, that we want the asset, we want that 250,000 to take us to the net level, and we're going to end up giving away. Unfortunately, cash is king. I don't think you should reflect too much on the fact that, yes, I've given away too much. I'm dealing with another business now where he's 27, and I think he's leaving far too much money on the table. And he's got an offer of 14 million at 27, and I'm thinking you can do a lot better. I always say there's no decision is a wrong decision, it's a decision. And in terms of how you decide, how far can you take it to reach a value inflection point that you think is justified? And that's always your challenge. So if I take my business, can I get it to here without any money, and in doing so increase my valuation? And that's always the challenge. I don't think there's a right and wrong reasons, because there's circumstances which dictate when and if you take money. Yeah,
it's all very bespoke. I'm going to take one question if we've got one. Otherwise, I'm going to ask it. Have we got a question? Lady at the front there. Yeah. Okay. So intangible assets, right? This is the story of our age, isn't it? Is that how you might have valued a business once upon a time was assets, employees. What is it when it's a kind of, how do you see it in terms of the I suppose businesses where a lot of what they do is ideas and creativity and services and things that are less easy to sort of stab, I guess.
I can only speak to it from the perspective of being a CFO and coming at it from the financial viability of those businesses. I think when it comes to any business like this, you would probably expect to see profitability, or at least very near-term profitability. So that sort of the business fundamentals would be quite key in understanding the margin and how you're exposed to growth and changes in the labour market and these sorts of things. So I think evaluation will come down to probably presenting the business in a way that shows to an investor or a debt provider the positives of investing in a business and how that business will scale, because services businesses ultimately are not tech businesses. They're not going to triple it overnight. And I think that there are going to be investors and patient capital out there who are attracted by that, because they're less risk. They're actually providing services that are key to certain markets, and that can, if these businesses are well run, there's always going to be places for capital of some sort to fund them.
Quick box, I've got a last question.
No, I think there are many larger scaling businesses that are not yet profitable. I think that market proposition and that proposition in the market, whether it be B2B or B2C, is going to be a very critical point. Can you see, as an investor, that there is a really huge market proposition there. So your ability to communicate
And
what the
vision to
market
capture.
proposition is, the size of that market, and what the return could be if what that is addressed is a critical point.
Right. Now, we're almost out of time, but I just want to I suppose, round this out. I mean, we started with the autumn statement. There is a long-term challenge that private businesses in this country have faced about getting the right funding. And it was identified, I think it was called the Macmillan Gap in the 50s,
Gap,
right?
yeah.
So the Macmillan Gap was this,
Report,
all this,
yeah.
you know, so there's nothing new in it. It's lived on. Are we close, Irene, to closing it? And then just a final thought about how close are we to a scale-up nation with one where capital doesn't seem like the strange thing to do, but actually something that could be really well developed, deployed, and ultimately get the results?
So I am very positive about that because, I mean, I've been working in this space for over a decade now, set up the Business Growth Fund and other things. One of the things we need to recognise is our pension funds and have been investing much more in corporate bonds and gilts than when historically they were more put into equity and growth companies. I think being able to unlock what we're now on the verge of unlocking will really address. It's a very small amount of our pension funds being allocated towards this growth economy, the SMEs in this room. I think we are on the verge of making that happen. It has been decades in the making, but we've also got the stock exchange looking at what it does. Intermittent trading venue, ITV for short, is going to open up the private sector markets into private sector businesses to access some of that institutional money in a much more seamless way without having to go public. So there's some really interesting things happening.
Alex, last.
Just quickly, I think one of the things, until we unlock the ability for startups to become scale-ups, we'll always have a challenge. And I think we also need to unlock the experienced capital outside of London, which isn't engaging with businesses and helping them.
Ian, your final thought.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that the UK faces is really not having the, let's say, the Googles and the Facebooks that have come through, and I do firmly believe that we're, at a very early stage of seeing some really great businesses come out of the technology sector in particular. And as to Irene's point, if anything we can do on pension funds, pensions are classic patient capital that can really fill that gap where private equity can't really do the same job because they really have shorter term outlooks and they want the return within 5 to 10 years. Pension funds really need to step in here, and I'm hopeful that we can make some inroads where others have. I've seen a lot coming from the North America.
Now, alas, we're out of time. Julia Hoggett, who is the Chief Executive of London Stock Exchange, she talked about the need for finance to become young, scrappy and hungry,
Exactly.
actually, and that actually it needed to be a
Julia.
lot less sort of conservative in the way that it approaches businesses. So, that's the dream, I guess, and thank you very much to our panel for helping share it. Cheers. Thank you very much there. Now, we've spent the whole day looking at, I suppose, pathways to success. And we've heard some really personal journeys in terms of how people have done it, how people have reflected upon it, and what it has meant to them to live lives in business, growing businesses, doing incredible things with their businesses. And I have to say our last speaker follows very much in that vein. Lord Billamoria of Chelsea, Coran Billamoria, is not only the new patron of the Small Business Charter, which I'm absolutely thrilled to share with you, but he is also, I think, one of the most iconic business voices in the UK today. If you like Cobra beer, you'll know exactly who he is, and who doesn't. Good question. I'm sure he'll want to ask you that personally. But, this is the story of taking the basement startup, of growing it, nearly losing it, and turning it into something iconic. And I often call it the idea that became the icon. It's a story that, I think has got so many learnable lessons in terms of how to live a life well lived. I think, Curran is not only an entrepreneur, he is an advocate for business, gives a huge amount back to business and entrepreneurs. I think it's a big part of why he supports the work of the Small Business Charter and specifically the Help to Grow programme. He's our final speaker. Karen, we're going to just say that before I introduce you, when you finish, we're going to bring all of the inaugural graduates of the Help to Grow programme are here today on stage to have a photograph with you. So that wasn't in your briefing, but the one thing about good entrepreneurs is they're always flexible and can think on their feet. So as long as you're happy with that, we are. So with that reason, let's give him a very big round of applause.
Thank you very much. How many of you here are Help to Grow management course alumni? Can I see a show of hands? Wow, congratulations. This is brilliant. Michael Heyman is somebody I've known and worked with for many, many years. And as you've probably seen all day, he's brilliant and absolutely amazing. And Flora, who you've probably met earlier today as well, I worked very closely with when I was president of the CBI, and she is brilliant as well. So thank you to both of you and to everyone involved in putting this day together. I believe it's been a great success, and I've heard from other speakers as well. So just to wrap up the day, so to say, I come from India originally, and I still do a lot of UK-India work. I've been doing this now for 20 years, and on the 24th of August, I went to India to attend the B20, just before the G20. And I tell you, when I was president of CBI, I chaired the G7, the B7 before the G7. If you remember, in Cornwall, with Boris on the beach and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, it was a fantastic, we did a great job. And I thought, wow, I've been involved in organizing an event like that. Flora probably remembers. We put a huge amount of effort, and we did a great job. I mean, had the head of the World Bank and the WTO and the IMF and Prime Minister, everyone. It was just really, really well done. I tell you, nothing compared with what India did with the G20. They knocked the ball out of the park. A whole year with dozens of events and non-stop in every field you can imagine, culminating in the B20 and the G20. So I arrived there, and on the 24th, and India was celebrating, because on the 23rd, the day before, India had just landed the first spacecraft on the south pole of the moon, becoming only the 4th country in the world ever to have landed a spacecraft on the moon. And wait for this. They did it at a cost of $74 million. Not billion, I didn't say billion, 74 million. And that is frugal innovation at its utmost. I mean, that is just phenomenal. And it was described as a victory cry of a new India. And I came here to study in the UK as a 19-year-old from India. I studied here, qualified as a chartered accountant in the City of London. The Bishopsgate brings back bad memories because I sat some of my exams across the road, and chartered accountancy exams are not nice. I also did a law degree in Cambridge. I've just, in fact, been at Cambridge all day today. And I decided very quickly during my chartered accountancy I didn't want to be an accountant for the rest of my life. I also decided during my law degree, although I enjoyed my time at Cambridge and loved the law, I didn't want to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. So I escaped both those professions. And I came up with the idea for Cobra Beer while I was a student at Cambridge. It was not a eureka moment. I did not jump out of a bath naked and run down the streets of Cambridge. It was an idea that evolved. And it came home to me earlier this week. You've all studied at business schools to do this program. And there's a new business school that's opened up in Canary Wharf from India called the SB Jain London Management School. And they have branches in Sydney and in Dubai and in India and now here in London. And I said, how? Another business school in London competing with all the amazing business schools we have in the UK? How are you going to succeed? And I thought about that going in there. And I remembered my own position. How was I going to succeed coming up with an Indian beer brand from nowhere with no money against all the odds, against giants? How do you succeed when you're up against all the odds? And the fundamental reason you do it is if you do something that is different and better, and that will change the marketplace forever. In my case, that extra smooth, less gassy beer, brewed smooth for all food, the winning formula. And it has been a winning formula. 146 gold medals, 7,000 restaurants exported 40 countries around the world, and people love the product. I mean, how many of you drink Cobra Beer? Can I just see a show of hands? Thank you for your support. Do you know the lifetime value of a customer? The lifetime value of a customer this room is worth millions of pounds to me. It's amazing. It is phenomenal. Once you have a product that people love and consume it throughout their lives, it is phenomenal. And if you can do that. And this little business school is doing it in a different way, where they've got engaged learning using technology that I have never seen before, where you can have a class of 60 people around the world, and the professor, through technology, can go up to a screen and speak to an individual student, not like a Zoom call. It's Zoom plus, plus, plus. And students getting a chance to spend time in 4 different places. So they've got a chance by doing something differently and better. What I learned in the first few years of Cobra, it was head down, trying to get this plane to take off. And it's very tough. I mean, you all started your own businesses. It's not easy. Raising finance for a growing business is not easy. I have my 10 Ps of building a business. First, you've got to have a great product. It's got to be at the right price. In my case, it's a super premium product, so it's expensive. It's got to be place available, and in my case, restaurants, supermarkets, cash and carries, and bars and pubs, and exported. Fourth is promotion. You've got to promote your product. I couldn't even afford a branded beer glass when I started. Today, we have the full suite of marketing and advertising and PR. And those are the 4 Ps of marketing, which you would have learned at your business schools. My extra 6 Ps, the most important P to me is people. I'm a manufacturer, but people in any business is the most important thing. The next P is finance, spelled PH. You can't do anything without the money. And as you all know who put your hands up, it is really difficult to raise money for a growing business, and particularly in my case, an unknown brand with no collateral, no security to offer. It's tough. The next P is passion. You've got to love what you do, follow your passion, not your pension. The next P is partnership. How many of you started with a business partner? Can I see? Most hands. I couldn't have done it on my own, but I'm talking beyond your business partner. I'm talking about treating everybody as a partner. Your customers, your suppliers, your bankers, your lawyers, your accountants, your advertising agency, your shareholders, your employees. They're all your partners. The next P is principles. It is better to fail doing the right thing than to succeed doing the wrong thing. And the next P is profit. There's no point doing this unless you make profit. So if you follow those 10 Ps, great, my business took off. Then I discovered lifelong learning. And I went to Cranfield School of Management, did the business growth program, very similar to the program that you've done. I went to the London Business School and did an entrepreneurial growth program over 5 years. And then I went to Harvard Business School and did the President's Program in Leadership over 9 years. And I'm an alumnus now of 3 business schools, and I can tell you it's the best thing that I've done. And I've gone back for refresher courses regularly. And now I'm back at Cambridge doing research at Cambridge. The learning never stops. I was dropping my younger son to school one day when he's 17 years old, and he turned around to me out of nowhere. I mean, he normally talks a whole lot of nonsense. But he just suddenly said, "Dad, you've got to live as if you're going to die tomorrow." So what are you talking about, Josh? "Dad, you've got to learn as if you're going to live forever." Where did you get that? Dad, Mahatma Gandhi, of course. So that's what you're doing. By going on this course, by being here today, you have that attitude of non-stop learning, and the learning never, never, ever stops. And just remember, we are very, very lucky to be where we are, to be in the UK. When I came here in the early 80s, the UK was looked upon as the sick man of Europe. Those exact words, sick man of Europe. Country going nowhere, had a great empire, biggest empire of the modern world, not of the world. I'm a Zoroastrian Parsi. The Persian Empire was the biggest of the ancient world, 44% of humanity. But what happened to Britain? Margaret Thatcher, whether you like her or not, transformed this country from an economic point of view. And one of the best things she did was to open up the City of London and to champion entrepreneurship. And one of the best things she did was to appoint a businessman, Lord David Young, as first her employment minister and then her business secretary. And to get somebody with a business background into cabinet was phenomenal. And a lot of what we're benefiting is thanks to Lord David Young, who sadly passed away, a great hero of mine and of Michael's. And I'm so privileged to now be patron of the Small Business Charter, taking over from him, something that he actually founded. And he is a legend that will always inspire all of us. I mean, he's so brilliant that David Cameron, by the way, now Lord Cameron, he took a seat last week. I thought he was going to, you know, you've got to be Lord, I'm Lord Billimore of Chelsea, so I thought he'd be Lord Cameron of Brexit. But he chose Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton. Anyway, by the way, how many of you think that Brexit was an unmitigated disaster and an act of self-harm? Can I just see a show of hands? Right, there we are. Every time I ask this question, anywhere, any audience, international, domestic, business people, not business people, this is what happens 7.5 years ago. Anyway, we're going to get out of it, and we're doing pretty well. So David Cameron made him business advisor, and he has done an amazing job. And then we have the Small Business Charter, we have the Association of Chartered Business Schools, of which Flora runs, and many of the business schools are over here. You've attended those business schools, and you've attended this wonderful course. Have you, Michael, reported during the day of the success of the course, the statistics of 85, 90% of people who've done the course, the levels of satisfaction of all of you is just off the charts. I mean, if I could launch a new product and have, in such a quick time, the levels of satisfaction that we've got out of this course is just incredible. And that is testament to all of you in committing to it, to the government funding it and doing it. You know, I suggested to Vince Cable when he was business secretary, he loved the idea, it was shot down. Rishi Sunak did it when he was Chancellor, and I'm very grateful to him. And he still continues to champion. I spoke to him about it the other day. He said, please, please keep championing it, and we're all doing that. So we're very lucky to have this program, which is, I think, brilliant. And I'm grateful to the government for supporting it, for funding it, and to give all of us this opportunity. We had the budget yesterday. How many of you liked the budget? Can I just see a show of hands? Oh, okay. How many of you didn't like it? Okay, you see, there's a mixed bag. Let me just be very, very frank with you. When I was CBI president, I kept calling out. I told Rishi, do not put up taxes when he was chancellor. He didn't listen. And he had his reasons. We would debate it quite, you know, I mean, he's a good friend. We debated it. He kept putting up taxes. I said one thing, make full expensing. Full expensing, so that you invest as a business, allow us to write it off fully. Do you remember the super deduction of 130%? That was being taken away. We said, put in full expensing as a permanent. He's done that. Now, they've done that, which is great news. Reduced taxes, national insurance going down by 2% is a good thing. So this is all moves in the right direction. Help to Grow management is continuing to be backed. Great thing. Business rates relief for smaller businesses, restaurants, hospitality, 75% relief is going to continue. Great thing. So there's a lot of really good stuff in the budget for which I'm grateful. The reality is taxes are still the highest level for 70 years. The reality is still that corporation tax has been put up from 19% to 25%, which I don't agree with. So that fiscal drag is there, and it's equivalent to a 9p increase in tax by 2030, which affects every taxpayer in this country. So that's the reality. There's some good, there's some reality, and we as entrepreneurs, we can make excuses, but I'm afraid there are no excuses. You've got to get on with it and make a success, whatever the environment. Inflation, good news, has gone down to 4.6%. It was 11%. But America's lower than us, and the EU is lower than us. And the forecast, it's going to go back down, maybe not to 2%, but just above 2%. And we need growth in the economy. What we're all about, the name of this program is growth. And the economy needs to grow as well. And I think to do that, we need to invest in research and development, innovation, and we're brilliant at that as a country. By the way, which university in the world has more Nobel Prizes than any other? It's not an American university. It's a British university, Cambridge University. I'm going to conclude now, but before that, I want to just check. How many of you think you're creative? Wow. You'll never get so many hands in a normal audience. Normally, less than half the hands go up. That is the secret to being successful as an entrepreneur, is to have that ability to be creative and innovative. And I was told throughout my childhood I was not creative because I was useless at art. And I was useless in music. I passed grade 1 piano. And then they said, spare us, you're tone deaf. So I only realized when I started my business that I'm actually very, very creative. And it is the most important skill. So I'm so glad to see all these hands go up. Have that restless innovation, ability to be non-stop creative. I'm in a way paranoid. I always want to just try and stay one step ahead. We've just launched our new Cobra Zero non-alcoholic beer. I mean, non-alcoholic beers are disgusting. You know, they are really bad. And we produced one for a while, and you know, that beer was pretty good, made in Holland. But we've just found in one of our breweries with my partners, Molson Coors, a non-alcoholic beer that is the best you've ever tasted using new technology in Serbia. And it's fantastic. You taste it, you think you're drinking normal beer. So that's the sort of non-stop. And the next thing you've got to have, the one word that sums up all of us in this room, we're creative, but we have guts. We have the guts to do it. Lots of people have business ideas. You've actually gone out and done it. More importantly than that, you've got the guts to stick with it when others would give up. And I've nearly lost my business 3 times. And finally, I end this by saying, going back to something I said earlier on, let's be grateful for where we are, because we're in a country that is genuinely a great country. We have the strongest combination of hard and soft power of just about any country in the world. Our manufacturing is still top 10 in the world. Our financial services, where we are today, is top 2 in the world. Our financial services, our services exports were top 2 in the world. Our defense force is small but phenomenal. We've got great hard power. And our soft power, universities, the best in the world, along with the United States of America. 4 out of the top 10 universities are UK, 17 out of the top 10, top 100 are UK. We are amazing. Our royal family, Her Majesty the Queen, Elizabeth II, what a great, great, great lady. The whole country loved her, but the whole world respected her. And now His Majesty the King, royal family, great soft power. The BBC gets a lot of criticism, but around the world, highly respected. 500,000 people watch and listen to BBC every single week. And as for Premier League football, that's another thing altogether. So we have great, great soft power. So please, let's finish this day with all the challenges some people fail because of, other people succeed in spite of. So in spite of all the challenges, you are succeeding, this country will succeed, and we believe in ourselves. Because our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits form our character, and our character determines our destiny. Good luck, and thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and, right. Thank you very much, Karen. Brilliant speech, and a great sort of, I think, vitamin shot to finish us off today. We're going to invite in a moment alumni of the programme up on stage for a photo. Don't feel obligated, but if you would like to be part of this inaugural, giant super cohort, you're more than welcome. But before I close, a couple of thoughts. Number one is that I want to thank the Small Business Charter team and the Help to Grow team that have put on today, and I think they deserve a massive round of applause. As you'll appreciate, many moving parts on a day with this many speakers, this sort of many breakouts, and I think that it's a real, a taste of what's to come. We want this to sort of every year to become a bigger and bigger sort of occasion. And there are things that you can do to be a part of that action. I think, if I take one of the big themes as of the speakers that we've heard from today is that everybody has been in a hurry to give back, to give of their time, to give of their advice, their friendship, their ideas, and they feel a lot better for it. That's what I took out of it. And there are things that I think people can do right now, actually, to join that journey. Success on your own terms. Success for me would be that every single person in this room goes away and recommends this course to friends and family and colleagues if they've enjoyed it, right? If the data speaks to the feedback about how special this course is becoming. And I think, isn't it a shame if it's just a well-kept secret? I think we want this course to be known and to be aspired to here in the UK, and we want it to be a gold standard of enterprise policy around the world. And I think every one of us can actually be part of that, of turning that idea into a destiny, as Karen mentioned. The second thing I want to say to you is that I'm chair of the Small Business Charter, and we deliver the Help to Grow programme through the business schools that you've all attended. And Karen mentioned Lord Young, David Young. I mean, he was the founder patron of the Small Business Charter, and what he wanted to do was to ensure that there was a two-way dialogue between business and business schools to make sure that small firms didn't feel intimidated walking through the front door of business schools, so that those business schools would be for them, for you, for all of us, in terms of going there to sort of seek resources and assistance. And I think we have, worked on that first chapter, and on our board are a number of small business leaders, and we want more small business leaders on our board, and we want more alumni of the Help to Grow programme. And if you would be interested in joining us on that board, I can tell you, I'm a volunteer. It's one of the best bits of volunteering I do, because actually we make a difference with the decisions that we make, and we make things like today and the courses that everybody's been going on possible by the decisions that we're able to take. So if you want to take a step in that direction, we want to create a vibrant, diverse, exciting board of people with lots of different experiences. And your applications would be very, very welcome. So I'd encourage people to have a think about that. And Flora's team are going to be in touch with a follow-up tomorrow. And if you'd like to come back on that, please do feel free to take the chance of an email. And if you'd like to talk about what it means to be on it, I'm open to talking to you about it as well, in terms of making sure that you're not signing a blank check of all of your time being given away. But it will be some time, and it will be time very well spent. That's, I suppose, the formal business of the day. I think that it was always our ambition that, although we've done lots of events locally with schools, is that we always knew that actually a big part of running a nationwide programme is, guess what? The nation of small businesses wants to meet. And I think it will be very interesting to see in the years to come how a foundation event like this starts to really snowball, starts to accelerate, starts to deliver for new generations and new cohorts of Help to Grow alumni. You, though, are something unique, the very first. Congratulations. Now, with that in mind, if we can do a quick removal of these chairs, and if I'm going to invite the alumni to make their way forward, and I'd like to just save this sort of just enough for Karen. I think we're going to get you about here, and I think everybody else, if you'd like to sort of do come up, don't be shy. I don't think the stage is going to collapse. I think there's been a health and safety assessment, and if it does collapse, don't blame me. But I think it's safe to come on board. So Diva, great. Come and get the. No, because I think we'll need the height for the folks, because they're folks dead. So why don't you come right dead centre? Great.
Could I stand next to you?
Yeah, of course you can.
Advisor to the daughters. I'll catch up with you. Are you hanging around? Yes, I'll come and catch you today.
Great. Okay. Keep filing in. Now, where's our photographers there? Right, you're going to give it. We're going to hand over to you in a minute. Just keep on piling on. Hopefully that's. Right, do you want us to cheer or just smile or right? Everybody, look at the camera. Right, that's it. Right, big cheer. 3, 2, 1. Yay! Thanks very much, guys. Well done.